Hi, I'm Violet from Washington, and I have a really personal story to share today. But before I do, please like and subscribe. My mom gave birth to identical twin daughters, me and my sister Sophie. So of course, my parents dressed us in the same clothes and braided our hair with matching ribbons. But people could easily tell us apart for one reason. Sophie was born with a minor facial distortion. Her eyes were a little lopsided, and her mouth was almost as low as her chin. I, on the other hand, looked like a frickin' porcelain doll. And everywhere we went, people would ooh and ah at me. She's just too lovely to be real. Look at those brown eyes. I have the same color eyes. But everyone ignored Sophie, and it really got to her. I kept telling her she was just as pretty as me, but she wouldn't hear a word of it. And as years passed, my sister grew to hate me. Sophie did everything she could to make me feel as sad and angry as she felt. She'd spread rumors about me at school, steal my diary, and once, she tried to shave off my eyebrows. I was living in fear 24/7. Worst of all, my parents didn't take it that seriously. I'll take away her electronics for a week. That's not enough, Dad. Sophie is trying to ruin my life. What if she tries to seriously hurt me? Oh, Violet, that's silly. Sophie's just going through a phase, and we would never let her harm you. They didn't understand. And when I turned 14, things really turned upside down. One afternoon, I came home from school to find Sophie in the living room with my parents, and they looked furious with me. How could you do something like that, Violet? What are you talking about? Sophie said you locked her in the closet for an hour. We heard her calling for us. What? Just then, I saw Sophie and she was smirking at me. I just don't think I feel safe around Violet anymore, Mommy. How can I trust her after what she did? Guys, she's framing me. She locked herself up in the closet. And why would she do that? That's just twisted, Violet. Didn't my parents see how crazy Sophie was? None of them talked to me that night. They all watched MSA videos with a bowl of popcorn while I stayed in my room. But the next morning, my parents did the unthinkable. They made me move into the guest house. It was Sophie's idea. You two need space away from each other. We can't have this negativity in the house. So you're kicking me out? What, because I trapped her in the closet? I told you guys I didn't do it. It doesn't matter who did it. The point is, you two are toxic for each other right now. And at the moment, Sophie needs our attention more than you do. You have more friends and the world at your fingertips. It's just for a short time, Violet. I was speechless. I was being punished for literally nothing. And it was all Sophie's fault. I moved into our guest house that evening and didn't speak to any of my family members. In fact, I continued to ignore them for the next several months. Sure, it was clear Sophie was much happier without me in the house. She made more friends and even picked up a few hobbies. But I was still bubbling with anger. One day, I was coming out of the supermarket when I saw a homeless boy outside with dyed turquoise hair. I immediately pulled out a bag of bananas and some change, but he just laughed. Whoa, do I look like a beggar? If I'm being honest. These clothes are just really old. I still insisted that he keep the bananas, and the two of us ended up having lunch together. I found out the boy's name was Easton, and he lived in an apartment down the block. He was also an absolute sweetheart. I told Easton all about my home situation and Sophie's issues with me, and he had a brilliant idea. Pretend to run away from home. Leave at midnight and leave a note. Turn off the location services on your phone and you can stay at my place. They'll get so scared, they'll beg you to move back in with them. They might even finally punish your jerk sister. I was sold. My whole family deserved a little scare. So that night, I sent a text to both my parents to tell them my plans and switched my location to private. I spent the next 2 nights at Easton's apartment. His family was really poor and I had to sleep on a torn cot. But I felt fantastic. My parents were probably going crazy. Maybe they think you joined a gang. Or they think I'm pregnant and ran off to get married. Unfortunately, the fun didn't last long. The next morning, my parents burst into Easton's apartment with several cops. They hugged me and cried for a moment, but then they were furious. Why would you scare us like this? We had no idea what was going on. Sorry, but you kicked me out for no reason and then neglected me for 6 months. I needed to teach you a lesson. Teach us a lesson? Violet, we know the living situation isn't perfect, and we know we haven't been giving you as much attention. But just disappearing like you did? That's crazy behavior. come with us right this second." After that, Mom let me move back into the house, but she watched me like a dog. Sophie even suggested I shouldn't leave home without her escorting me, and my parents agreed. Luckily, I could still hang out with Easton, who was the only person who seemed to care about me. And it turned out, we'd even be going to the same high school next month. On my first day of 9th grade, I was in gym class when Easton started jogging next to me. "Whoa there, you look ready to faint. Here, take some of my water." "Oh God, is it that obvious?" "Don't worry, you still look lovely, even though you're drenched in sweat." Easton smiled at me as I drank from his water, and I felt a little weak in the knees. And not just because I was tired. I saw Sophie glare at me as she jogged by, but I didn't care. As months passed, Easton and I just got closer, and whenever Sophie was mean, he always defended me. "You can make fun of Violet's dress all you want, but she's the one who got a party invitation and you didn't." Secretly, I had the biggest crush on Easton, but I was way too chicken to ever tell him. I was just grateful to have a best friend. It was exhausting living with a bully 24/7. Then one day when I came home from school, my parents gave me shocking news. They'd found a plastic surgeon to fix Sophie's facial distortion. They couldn't completely get rid of it, but I'd never seen my sister so happy. I felt so ugly my whole life, Violet. I know it sounds shallow, but I can't wait to be as beautiful as you. Sophie, look at me. You've never been ugly. But if getting this surgery makes you feel more confident, then I support you. Sophie started to cry then and hugged me. I stayed with her in the surgery room the entire time, and she even apologized for how she treated me. And I was glad. I was ready to give up our crazy fighting. After Sophie's surgery, things changed between us. Sophie didn't seem jealous of me anymore and even started hanging out with me and Easton. Then one day, I walked into my front yard and almost had a heart attack. Sophie was kissing Easton. Hey, does someone want to tell me what's going on here? Well... Violet, I've been meaning to tell you. Easton and I like each other, and I asked him out. I felt like I was gonna throw up. I pulled Sophie aside angrily. How could you do this to me? Sophie, I love him, and you know it. I know you love him, and I'm sorry, but I've been hanging out with Easton for a couple of weeks, and we have a connection. No, I have a connection with him. You barely know him. I don't get it. You got the surgery. You have everything I have now. Why would you hurt me like this? Violet, I'm not trying to hurt you. I really like Easton, and I just want to be happy for once. I can't take this anymore. You made me miserable for 14 years, and then got me kicked out of my own house, and convinced Mom to basically ground me for 24/7. This is the last straw. I stormed off and blocked Easton on all social media. He kept calling me to apologize and tell me that him dating Sophie wouldn't change our friendship, but I refused to speak to him. The next day at school, I decided it was time for overdue revenge. The first thing I did was attach a bucket of paint to the cafeteria doorway, and when Sophie walked in with Easton, paint splashed all over them. Everyone laughed like crazy, and I felt great. I got suspended for a day, but it was worth it. And I didn't stop there. That entire month, I pulled every prank I could think of on them at school, putting spiders in their locker and gluing their butts to the classroom chairs. I felt guilty for being a jerk, but Sophie deserved it, didn't she? And Easton was dating my sister, who bullied me my whole life. Then one day, I was studying in the courtyard when Easton walked over to me, and he looked furious. "I've had it with you, Violet. Your jealousy has turned you insane. All the kids at school now are terrified of you." "What do you mean? I've done nothing to anyone except you and Sophie." "Really? 'Cause the bucket of paint from your prank got all over the cafeteria floor, and one kid tripped and sprained his ankle. I'm sorry you're hurt about me dating Sophie, but it happened organically. Our feelings for each other had nothing to do with you. I know you're hurt, but don't become a bully because of it." Easton walked off, and I thought about what he said. Maybe Sophie wasn't trying to hurt me, and her falling for Easton was just a coincidence. Maybe I could just be happy for her. So that week, I did everything I could to make things right with people. I volunteered to help as many kids as I could with homework, and they'd know I wasn't a monster. And I apologized to Sophie and Easton, and surprisingly, they forgave me. On Friday night, Sophie and Easton were celebrating their 1-month anniversary at the beach, so I told Sophie I'd deliver them a picnic basket. But when I got there, Sophie was sitting alone in the sand, and she was crying. "Hey, what's wrong? Where's Easton?" "He's not here, Violet. He's not coming." "Did you guys break up?" "No, because we never dated. It was all fake. I even paid Easton monthly and used up all my savings. I wanted to make you jealous. Wait, what? I don't understand. I thought that after my surgery, people would start treating me differently because my face looked better. I thought I'd finally get as much attention as you. But because my distortion isn't totally fixed, I didn't. And that made me angry. But I can't do this to you anymore. I feel horrible. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sophie kept apologizing, but I couldn't even look at her. I didn't want revenge. I just didn't want to deal with her anymore. Things completely changed between us after that. My sister and I both cut contact with Easton and became strangers to each other. It broke my heart, but I didn't know what else to do. We were toxic for each other. Before we knew it, high school ended and we both went our separate ways. A couple years later, I was walking around my university campus when I got a phone call. "Violet, it's Easton. I know we haven't spoken in years, but I need your help. My parents lost their house and are homeless. I'm doing everything I can to help them, but I'm desperate. I'm calling everyone I know for either money or food." My stomach was in knots. I still hated Easton for what he did, but he was obviously in a crisis. So I bought a bunch of food and clothes and arrived at the homeless shelter. God, you're an angel. I can't thank you enough. I'm not doing this for you. It's for your parents. And I never want to see you after this. Do you understand? Yes. What I did to you was unforgivable. Can I just tell you one thing? I never wanted to go through with Sophie's fake dating plan. The only reason I agreed to it was because my family's been struggling since I was a kid. I was always terrified we'd end up living on the streets. It's still no excuse, especially because I was in love with you. My head started spinning. I had no idea Easton had been suffering that much, and I had no idea that he'd loved me. I decided it was time to smooth things over. That night, I went right home and convinced my parents to give Easton's family a loan. And then, I asked if they could invite Sophie for dinner. Oh, sweetie, that's a wonderful idea. She's doing well these days, but she talks about you a lot. For some reason, I was happy to hear that. When Sophie came over, she immediately ran to hug me. "Violet, I am so glad you're here. Actually, I got you some presents." Sophie handed me a huge gift bag, and to my shock, she'd bought me all kinds of expensive presents. Perfume, jewelry, and even a brand new iPad. None of this makes up for how I've treated you over the years, but I love you, Violet, and if you ever want to have a relationship, I'm here. Thanks, Sophie. That means a lot. You did really hurt me, but it has been a couple of years. I can't forgive you overnight, but this is a good start. I also know you got in touch with Easton. If you ever want to date him, you have my blessing. It's a possibility, but first, I want to make things right with you. Though, of course, Sophie invited Easton over later and left us alone on our porch. I'm really glad you and Sophie made up. Do you think you can ever forgive me, Violet? I never really got over you. Wow, I didn't know that. But it will take me some time to trust you again. I understand that. I'm willing to wait as long as it takes. Hi everyone, my name is Misha and I'm from India. Please like and subscribe to MSA. I was born into a super rich family where my parents always treated me like a princess. But it all changed when 2 years later, my little sister Dia was born. And then suddenly, the earth started revolving around her. Oh, honey, doesn't she look like an angel?
Oh no, she's definitely a goddess. Since her birth, our wealth has doubled.
My little sister was indeed really pretty and a natural genius, while I was dyslexic and could hardly read even at the age of 7. But John...
You should just give up, Misha. No matter what language you study, it's all gonna read stupid to you.
And while she'd bully me for being different, Mom and Dad would just adore her for her little achievements.
I've run out of career goals for her. She can be anything in this world. My daughter is perfect.
Mom, do you even know she hit a kid at school today? How's that any good?
She fought against a bully. You should be proud of her.
Proud? She was the bully. I just hated her at times, and I wished she would just vanish somewhere. But then, our lives took a terrible turn. On Dia's 6th birthday, Mom and Dad took us to see the Grand Kumela, a festival where almost 15 million people gather once every 12 years. It was super crowded, so my parents asked me to hold Dia's hand. But the moment they went ahead for the prayer, she started acting like a brat.
Let me go. I don't want to hold hands with you. I'm a big girl now, and you can't even read. If we get lost, I'll be the one saving you.
Shut up, this is no joke. Stay next to me. But she kept complaining and then bit my hand. Ouch! I suddenly let her go and she ran into the crowd. I ran after her, but she was nowhere to be seen, and I started to freak out. Some security people rescued me, but we just couldn't find Dia. Mom fainted as soon as she heard this news. For months, my parents kept looking for Dia and put out several rewards for whoever found her. But that just ended up with frauds coming from random girls dressed like Dia to receive the reward money, and Dad would have kicked them out. And seeing Mom spiral into depression, I couldn't help thinking it was my fault. I had let go of Dia's hand, and thinking about it broke my heart.
Oh, honey, you shouldn't cry like this. We're gonna find your sister, okay?
But what if we don't? I won't be able to forgive myself, Dad.
It's not your fault, love.
Mom, you don't blame me?
Of course not. It could have happened to anyone. And all we can do now is love and support each other and not give up hope.
Mom hugged me tight, and I felt better than I had in ages. I started working hard on myself in my studies, and my parents cheered me on, but they never stopped looking for Dia. Years passed, and one day when I topped my 10th grade exams, I went home with gifts for everyone. But when I got there, I was stunned to see my parents crying and hugging a girl.
Oh, honey, look! It's Dia! Dia's back! This boy found your sister.
I was still in shock as my parents showed me her DNA test, which was a match.
We checked her birthmark, and she remembers things from her childhood days. She's really your sister, Misha.
I missed you so much, Misha. I missed you too, Dia. Look at you, you're so grown up now. She then told us that after getting lost, she'd been rescued by a monk who'd raised her all these years. I'd been living in a monastery, and then this guy came here as a tourist a week ago and told me I looked a lot like a girl a family had been searching for. So he brought me here. Dad offered the guy Neil a handsome reward, but he turned it down.
I'm grateful, sir, but what I really need is a job. I have a sick mom to look after, so it would be great if I had a regular salary. My family and I can never truly pay you for everything you've done for us, son. You can take both the money and the job.
The guy's face lit up, and Dad hired him as my driver. The same night, I was super excited to hang out with Dia, but the moment I entered her room, she threw a nasty fit. Ugh, can't I get any sleep now? I'm tired of answering everyone's questions all day. Just get out. And there I knew she was my sister for sure. Who else could be so bratty towards me? I was heading back to my room when I spotted Neil outside.
Ugh.
Gotcha.
Whoa, that was scary, miss.
What are you doing? Need some help?
No, yes. I can drive cars, but this one's so complicated with all the automatic settings. I just can't
move.
What?
Just do as I say. I moved into the driver's seat and showed him how everything worked, and he looked impressed.
If you're so good at this, I'm sure you can drive well too.
Shh, it's a secret. Until I turn 18. After that, we started talking, and he was the funniest guy ever. My cheeks hurt from laughing so much. Soon, Neil became the friend I never knew I needed. He drove me around everywhere, and in between, he'd pick me up meals too. OMG, I was craving this burger so bad. Gosh, this tastes like heaven.
Only the best and greasiest for you.
But my peace around the house was being hijacked by my sister again. Mom had promised to perform certain rituals if Dia returned home safely, but Dia had the most ridiculous wishes of her own. The monk I lived with told me to wear gold all over my body, Mom. My skin feels so dry. I want to bathe in milk from now on, Mom. I don't think I can go to school so soon. How about you send me on vacation somewhere first? Why is your list of demands getting so absurd? And you need to go to school, Dia. Unlike you, I haven't been able to live in luxury for the last 8 years of my life. And now you have issues if I want to live a bit? A bit? We'll go broke if you keep making Mom and Dad spend this way. Even after all these years, you haven't grown up at all. That's enough, Misha. Mom came in and scolded me, but I was so pissed that I just stormed off to the rooftop. And surprisingly, Neil was there too. What are you doing here?
I was just getting some fresh air. It's been quite tough lately.
What do you mean? Neil told me he spent all the reward money on his mom's treatment, but now the doctors were asking for more.
I don't know how to ask your dad. He's already paying me for the job and…
I can lend it to you.
What?
Yeah, you can take the money and pay me back later. That's the least I can do for you.
You're an angel, Misha. I don't know how I'll ever be able to thank you. Anyway, why are you here? You look bothered too.
I ended up telling him everything going on with Dia.
She's been away from her family and friends for so long, and it's an adjustment phase. Or maybe she's acting out. Just give her some time. And you need to take some stress off too. Come with me.
We drove to a beautiful beach and spent the entire night there talking and laughing, and it was then that I knew I'd started having feelings for Neil. I dozed off in the car on our way home, but when I woke up, I found myself in Neil's arms as he was carrying me to my room. As he put me in my bed, I felt in a dream-like state, and I pulled him in for a kiss. Ew! I saw Dia standing at the door. She ran to my parents, screaming that Neil and I were madly in love.
Do you have no shame, Misha? He's a servant and you kissed him? I dreamt of marrying you to some billionaire and you're settling for a driver?
Dad, Neil's a good guy.
Yes, he must be, but not good enough for you. We can't fire him because of what he did for us, but stay away from him, okay? He is way below your league.
Their words pierced my heart, but I wasn't going to give up on the person I loved so easily. I went to Neil's room later that night with some money and told him we could run away.
What? No, Misha, we can't do that. They're your parents, and you know how miserable they were after losing Dia. They'd be heartbroken to see you gone.
He calmed me down and told me we were going to find a way to convince my parents someday. Fine, I believe you, but you can keep this money for your mom's treatment since you need more. The next day, Neil was assigned as Dia's driver, and she kept sending me pictures of how she was bossing him around, which made me angry. And later that night, that witch came to my room. Seeing how pathetic you guys are feeling without each other, I've decided to do you a favor. You know how much Mom and Dad adore me and can't refuse anything I ask, so I was thinking I can convince them to let you two date.
Really? You're gonna…
No, not yet. Well, there's nothing in it for me. So how about you give me something I want?
What do you want?
Soon it's my birthday, and Mom told me she's gonna distribute all the ancestral jewelry between us two. Just tell her that you don't want any, and she can give everything to me.
What? That's ridiculous. Those are family heirlooms and…
Well, if you want heirlooms more than your one true love, then so be it.
No, wait. I'll do it. I'll give it to you.
It's a deal. The next day, it was Sunday, and Neil mostly spent it with his mom in the hospital, so I went to see them both. Excuse me, can you tell me which room Mrs. Bertha is in?
Oh, honey, she passed away 2 years back.
What the heck? I immediately called Neil and asked him to come meet me. Did you lie to me? About your mom? The hospital staff said she'd passed away 2 years ago.
I'm so sorry, Misha. I didn't mean to lie, but I needed the money to pay off my debts.
What?
My dad borrowed a lot of money for my mom's treatment, but after she passed away, he left me all by myself. Now the moneylenders are after me, and if I don't pay them back, God knows what they'll do to me.
He broke down in tears, and I hugged him. Hey, it's all right. You didn't have to hide the truth from me, Neil. And don't worry, I'm here for you. I'll always be here for you. The next few days, Neil was really busy with all the preparations for Dia's grand birthday party. I couldn't speak to him in front of Mom and Dad, so I sneaked up to see him on the rooftop. Looks like someone's super busy.
Misha, I missed you so much.
I missed you too, Neil. We sat down and talked for a while. You know, this time my parents are super excited for Dia's birthday, but for the last 8 years, it was the saddest day for them. They'd instructed the servants to decorate the house with lights in her memory, hoping she'd return one day. And now she's finally with us, thanks to you, Neil. I love you so much. Suddenly, his eyes became teary, and I told him about my deal with Dia to cheer him up.
What? You're willing to give up something so precious for me?
You're more precious to me than all the jewels, and she's gonna help us.
No. I can't do this anymore, Misha. I just can't fool you anymore. I'm such a horrible person, and you shouldn't give up anything for me.
What do you mean?
I lied. To you and your family. That girl, she's not your sister. She's a con artist I picked up from the street to work with me.
What are you saying, Neil?
It's true, but I can explain.
You jerk! How dare you! I told you not to tell anyone anything!
I'm sick of being your puppet. I brought her here to fool your family, Misha, but then she started to blackmail me, and I had to ask you for money for her. I can't do this anymore.
This girl wasn't my sister, and the guy I loved was a fraud? I felt devastated and rushed to tell my parents the truth.
How could you do this to us? How could you play with a mother's feelings?
Dad called the cops and had them both arrested, and it just broke Mom down.
That's it. No more rewards, no more searching. My heart can't take it anymore. We should accept the fact that our daughter is gone. For good.
After that, Mom fell super sick and we had to send her to therapy. We also stopped looking for Dia, and I moved to the US for university. When I came back after 4 years, I started working for Dad's company, and within the next 2 years, he made me the CEO. On the day of the handover celebration, I was in my office when a guy broke in with security chasing him.
What's going on? Who is this guy? It's me, Misha.
Neil? I asked the guards to take him away, but then he said the most shocking thing.
Dia is here with me, your real sister, and I swear I'm not lying this time. It's really her. Trust me, Misha.
I didn't trust him one bit, but given there was the smallest chance that it might be my real sister, I decided to see her. He introduced me to a girl who did look like Dia and didn't remember much about our childhood together, except that she was our family. Of course, I got a DNA test done, this time under my observation. And to my shock, the test results proved she was my real sister. I immediately called my parents and they came running.
Oh, honey, I can't believe it's you.
Mom, Dad, I thought I'd never find you guys. I missed you all so much. I missed you too, Misha. But as everyone was busy hugging, I noticed Neil was leaving and I followed him outside. Stop, where are you going?
I just wanted to make up for what I'd done to you and your family, Misha. But I still can't look you in the eye.
You spent all these years looking for my sister?
I had to. I couldn't live with myself otherwise.
Then why did you con us in the first place, Neil?
To get revenge for my family, but it was so wrong.
Revenge? What do you mean?
My mom was your and Dia's nanny, and she loved you both so much and often told me stories about you guys. That's how I was able to tell the fake girl some things about your childhood. But after Dia got lost, Mom was fired. The cops took her in for an investigation, thinking Dia's disappearance might be a kidnapping. She had a hard time dealing with those false accusations and got super sick. I couldn't help blaming your family.
And that's why you decided to take revenge.
I'm really sorry for everything, Misha. Living with your family and getting to know you, I realized what a terrible thing I'd done. You were so good to me and I fell for you. And then I couldn't think of hurting you.
That's enough, Neil.
Trust me, I really love you, and I thought finding your sister was the only thing that could make you forgive me. But I know it won't be easy, so I won't stay and bother you.
He started walking away, but something in my heart felt heavy. Wait, stop! I forgive you, Neil. You've been through enough yourself. I can't forget what you did in the first place, but I can definitely forgive you.
Do you really mean it?
Yes, I do. So please stay, because this time I want to know you for real.